My name is Oladosu Adenike from Nigeria, the founder of Lead Climate. I specialize in security, equality, and peace building in Africa, especially the Lake Chad region. An eco-feminist, climate justice activist, and an agricultural economist. Welcome to Global Landscape Forum, one of the first digital climate summits, 2020 Bonn. And this year, the theme is food and livelihood. The impact of climate change is numerous, and Africa continent is not left in this, as we are adversely affected by these changes. And in the Lake Chad region, we have the shrinking Lake Chad, of which Nigeria, Niger, Cameroon, and Chad are part of these issues. In Nigeria, the northeastern part is closest to this. As a result, about 276 schoolgirls were kidnapped. And this made me become an eco-feminist in 2014 when I saw this incident. And that is why I've been fighting for the right of women, because I know that climate justice is a justice for women. It's an empowerment to women. I schooled in Benue State, Nigeria, known as the food basket of the nation, green and fertile. And we can see a lot of farmer-herdermen clashes as a result of fight for land and greener pasture. Those herdermen in the northeastern part of Nigeria are experiencing deforestation, drought, and dryness. As a result, they migrate to greener pasture where my school is located. And in the process of feeding their cattle, they intrude into the farmer's land. And this cost me an extra 1 year to the 5 years course I'm studying for, agricultural economics. And this made me to focus more on Lake Chad issues, because what climate change can do, especially in West Africa, is armed conflict, of which we are seeing. And if we don't take action, it will develop to poverty level, of which we are currently seeing in most African countries. And that is why food and livelihood are important in times like this, how to deal with it. And what gives me hope in Lake Chad issue is the fact that we now have a 9-point agenda known as the 9 pillars for the regional stabilization of this lake, for resilience, for recovery, and restoration. Some of the 9 pillars are security, human assistance, empowerment of women and youth, socio-economic recovery and environmental sustainability, among others, to prevent violence and to build peace. And this gives me hope that when this is actualized or established, the food and livelihood of many will be restored, because this lake has shrunk by 90% since 1960s. And it's a home and that depends on it, millions of lives. And about 10.7 million people have been displaced as a result of this, and our biodiversity is at stake of being extinction. And the solution to this can be seen in the initiative of the Great Green Wall that was established in 2007 by African Union. This is a major victory, especially to recharging of Lake Chad, because if we don't restore our ecosystem, the recharge of Lake Chad will not be feasible or effective, because they need something to be dependent on so as to prevent the total dependency on Lake Chad. And this has a 12 focal points for the Great Green Wall initiative, of which include a smart agriculture, land restoration, land management, education, learning, innovation, knowledge sharing, among others. If this can be done, we are sure to restore the livelihood of many, and our biodiversity lives will not be at stake. Everything will be okay because we now have the ecosystem restored. This great green wall cut across the Sahel region, and if we don't take action now, nature will fight us back, as we are seeing in the COVID-19. The COVID-19 is worsening the impact of climate change in this region, and we must take action. And that is why the world needs to lead climate before it leads us. According to the IPCC report that we have 12 years left, we need to take action. Thank you.
Welcome to the Global Landscapes Forum digital conference. We are here together around the world to find solutions for a more sustainable land use. And in these troubled times, I have good news to share today. The good news is that most solutions for a transition to sustainable land use are already known. Not only known, they are already implemented in pilot projects with positive impacts somewhere in the world. Many of the participants to the forum probably contribute to the implementation of these solutions. We know that big, complex problems are often solved by a sequence of small local solutions that are applied with persistence. Small solutions are better understood by stakeholders. They can be adapted to the local context. It's somehow acting within the scale of our competence. Small solutions for forest conservation would be community-based forest management, local reforestation projects, payments for ecosystem services, many projects for sustainable intensification of land use, eco-certification schemes, and other voluntary sustainability standards. Now, the problem with small solutions is that they tend to stay small. And if small is beautiful, as someone once said, big is necessary. That's why the key challenge is the upscaling of all these existing solutions. The problem is not so much the speed of transformation, it's the scale of the transformation. A former US President, Bill Clinton, once said, "Nearly every problem has been solved by someone somewhere. The frustration is that we can't seem to replicate those solutions anywhere else." We've learned a lot on what makes an effective upscaling experience, and we know it always involves a multiplicity of actors. It does involve national and local governments, civil society organizations, private businesses, and most importantly, of course, local land managers. We need to bring all these actors together to first create awareness and understanding of the issues, to create the incentives and the motivations to act, and of course to create the capacity to implement new solutions. And we need to do that not just with the few most progressive actors in any sector, because they only represent 5 to 20% of the market shares. We need to bring along the second, third, and fourth tier actors that are less keen to embrace more sustainable practices. Two key pathways for upscaling sustainable land use practices are, for example, when public policies support or endorse private sustainability standards or practices, or even make them mandatory. Another one is when private companies integrate these sustainable practices as part of their internal code of conduct and their sustainable sourcing commitments. To achieve that, a key ability of the leaders for more sustainable landscape management are people who are able to create effective partnerships between multiple stakeholders. We look forward to your contribution to this.
I'm very glad to be with you guys. I'm going to be hosting the next session, some of the next sessions. I'm Fê Cortez. I'm speaking to you from Brazil. I'm very fond of GLF. I've been to the forum in Bonn 2 years ago, and I think it's a great opportunity for us all to drive and to make efforts on those next 10 years. I am an environmental activist here in Brazil. That's the country that kills more environmental people in leaderships in the world. And all the activists now is trying to be put away from our government. I think we have a very big issue here regarding the Amazon forest that everybody is probably aware of, but I think it's never late to tell the story of what's happening. So this is a very important discussion about food, because what makes our deforestation happen here in such big rates, and it's been like 170% higher in April this year, is agribusiness. We have a sector here, an agribusiness sector here in Brazil that's together with our president Bolsonaro, the most ecocide and genocide government ever. They're trying to kill indigenous peoples. They're trying to make all the land, all the federal land, they're trying to convert it into illegal use and then make it legal. We are having this discussion right now in our Congress. So it's time for you guys. I invite you guys to join this discussion and to pressure our government, to pressure the companies that buy from Brazil so that it doesn't happen. Because without the Amazon forest, a lot is going to change in the world. Because this forest not only makes us here alive and gives us water and air and everything, but it's also this huge knowledge that we're going to lose with all these indigenous people. Now that we are facing the COVID here in Brazil with very high rates, we are seeing that the indigenous people are more affected than ever because they don't get assistance, and our government didn't reach the money they were supposed to for the assistance of indigenous people. So lots of initiatives have been launched. You can donate to those initiatives if you're really fond of this issue, and if you want to protect our forests, because Amazon forest is everyone's forest, is the biggest forest in the world. So this thing that we are talking about, how to feed people without eating the planet, is very important discussion right now. And to make it clear that we have other opportunities and that we have other ways to act is very important. Here in Brazil, I'm in this environmental activist. I've been doing that for 5 years now. I launched this project that's called Menos Lixo, or something like One Less Trash, so that we can empower people to rethink their consumption habits. That's what generates so much waste in the world. And it's really connected to landscapes use and to food and everything that we are just saying and talking about, and that we have to, really develop other ways of connecting to our environment, of being part of this environment. So I'm very glad to be part of this discussion with you guys. And we just watched this session we had two very important speeches from Adenike, Oladosu from Nigeria, and she was online. I don't know if anyone chatted with her because we had a problem in the starting that I couldn't say this earlier, but she describes herself as an ecofeminist, and in fact, this is her Twitter's name, and she's very passionate about increasing youth involvement in the climate action. We are seeing it a lot now and she's on the front lead of that. She has said that this can be achieved through climate education. We have to work on climate education all over the world, not only Nigeria, and promoting the importance of women's rights. It's very connected. Adenike is also head of I-Lead Climate Movement for Peace, Security, and Equality in Africa, particularly in the Lake Chad region, which she said, which is being devastated by climate change crisis. So as part of the FFF, Fridays for Future movement in Nigeria, she shared in 2019 Ambassador of Conscious Award by Amnesty International to Greta Thunberg and the FFF movement. So that's the speech we just saw. Very impressive and very important to regard the issues of women's rights, of climate change, and especially in poor countries that are going to be the countries that suffer the most from all of this crisis that's most of the time not generated by those poorest countries like Brazil or countries on the south part of the globe like Brazil. And also we had Professor Eric Lambin. He is a geographer and environmental scientist, divides his time between the Catholic University of Louvain in Belgium and Stanford University in the United States. His research aims at trying to improve our understanding of causes and impacts of land use, just like GLF, those changes in different parts of the world and how they're connected. His current work focuses on understanding how globalization affects land use around the world and how private and public regulations of land use can interact to promote more sustainable land use practices. We really need to join forces as public and private initiatives and regulations, and we can do that also as a force, as consumers. We are all consuming things all the time, and we're all eating food, so we can make a big pressure on the companies that are doing that are selling our food, that are doing that not in a very more effective way, as if I can say that. So thank you, Eric and Adenike, for your speeches. They are very important, and they bring us lots of ideas and reflections about how we can act. So who is already in Hova? I would like to know where you guys are coming from, which city you are, and to make it a little funnier, and then I can read the answers. I'd like to ask you guys, what's your favorite animal that's like an animal that's really common in your region where you are? What's your connection to this animal? Let's talk a little about how nature is all around us all the time and how it can teach us so much, right? And also for people that are watching in Hova, you can check on, because the app has many functionalities, and one of them is to explore the agenda. You can signpost sessions you don't want to miss. And if you have any questions, there's an FAQ doc located in Hova, and it's on the left side menu on your desktop if you're watching it from your desktop, or under FAQ in the mobile app. If it doesn't work for any reason, you can contact the event organizer. There's a chat box for that. And for most sessions, and this is very important, we offer free translation to Spanish or French or either English. So please click on the session you want to watch. And then in the description, you see a link to translation that says Interactio. So you can go there and see the availability of that. So next sessions that we are having, you can go there on the agenda and see most details and times, but we're going to have the GLF Live with ecolinguist Aaron Stibe at 14. Sustainable Wood Food Value Chains for Food Security in Sub-Saharan Africa, Center for International Forestry Research as well, same time. Contribution on forestries and agroforestry to sustainable food security and nutrition in time of crisis. And then it's going to be also at the same time, Soils as keystone for food security and ecosystem restoration. So this is going to be a TMG think tank from 2 to 6. And GLF Live with Jolin Cholok, Miss Environment Indonesia. And she's going to talk about advocacy during COVID. And this is going to happen 14-15. Teachings from Australian First Nations author Alex Wright. Just after that, why peatlands matter for security, for food security, International Tropical Peatland Center. GLF Live with John Vital and Bill McBean. And Q&A sessions, how to improve smallholders' access to finance in sustainable farming system, Global Innovation Lab for Climate Finance. This is a very important issue because sometimes people don't have the access for the finance to, make everything work. So I'll be right back with you guys in a few minutes. Please go to Hova, chat with us, answer this, tell me on the chat box where you're from and what's your favorite animal or connection to the animal where you're from. And I'll see you guys in a while. Thank you very much for being with us, for being interested in that. Let's spread the word. Let's, share knowledge, because this is a very important way we can really, really, really change the world.